Can everyone hear me okay? A heart mom is always a heart mom, now wise beyond her years. For those who have angels in heaven, our hearts share in all your tears. Every day I will try and remember, I was chosen for him and no other. I will always embrace that beautiful day when I became a heart mother. Good evening. My name is Erica and I'm 31 years old and was diagnosed with Jacobson syndrome in 2009 after my son Kylan was born. This is Kylan, everyone. My son Kylan, who is now 9 months old, was born with hypoplastic left heart syndrome and Jacobson syndrome. I would first like to thank Dr. Grosswald for inviting me to this conference and asking me to tell our story. I am much honored to be here along with my family to share our experiences through our lives and to give hope to other families who have children that were diagnosed with Jacobson syndrome. As you are all aware, Jacobson syndrome is characterized by a distinctive facial appearance, some degree of mental impairment, and certain types of birth defects, especially the heart. Other complications include recurrent infections, decreased platelet count, failure to thrive, and slow growth. I was born June 8, 1979. I was the first of 3 children to my parents. 6 weeks after birth, I was diagnosed with a VSD, which is a ventricular septal defect, which is sometimes referred to as a hole in the heart. When I was born, growing up was pretty easy. I, however, had a problem with bleeding. When I would fall, I was unable to stop, and my bruises lasted a little longer than normal. In grade school, I did have to get glasses because I started having vision problems, but eventually moved to contacts. In high school, I was diagnosed with vasodepressor syncope, which means I pass out easily, and this was related to my heart murmur, but I'm not really sure how. In school, I always had a very hard time learning. I knew the material for a test, but when it came time to take the test, I was unable to do it. Unfortunately, my diagnosis was not made until my senior year in high school. Once my English teacher discovered I was the smartest kid in class, but was unable to do the test. After high school, I went on to graduate from college and got my degree in the Associate of Applied Business, specializing in hospitality management. When I was 21 years old, I ran into bleeding problems for quite a while. After about a month, I went to the doctor and my blood count was very low. That year, I ended up having some DNCs and a few blood transfusions until they were finally able to get that problem under control. After this episode, I was told that I might have a problem getting pregnant, but it was not impossible. After I graduated from college, I jumped right into my hospitality field. Within about 3 years, I went from being a guest service representative to eventually becoming an assistant general manager at a hotel. I was the assistant general manager for a little over 2 years. I loved it, but eventually wanted to step down and start a family. Now I work at a private airline in the area and book hotel rooms for pilots. I got pregnant at the age of 29 and had a pretty easy pregnancy until I got to about 30 weeks. In the first and second trimester, I had the occasional all-day sickness and headaches, but that was all normal. At 20 weeks, we went in for a 4-month checkup to find out the sex of the baby and to make sure everything was developing properly. However, at this checkup, they were unable to get a good picture of Kylan's heart, so they suggested a new ultrasound at 24 weeks. At 24 weeks, they still were not able to get a good picture of his heart, so they sent me in for a 3D ultrasound. They told me there was no hurry, and this had nothing to do with my heart murmur. Little did we know. This was the end of June. July 17th not only changed my life, but my husband's life also. This was the day we found out our baby had, to put it in simplest terms, half our heart. I'm sorry. We later went on to name Kylan Nemo because Nemo had a small fin and Kylan had a small heart. Kylan's medical diagnosis was hypoplastic left heart syndrome. To basically put it in simplest terms, his left side of his heart was underdeveloped. We were given 3 options: terminate the pregnancy, go to term and deliver, and let God take his course and have no medical intervention, or deliver to full term and take medical intervention. We chose to take medical intervention. Luckily, Kylan was diagnosed when he was still in the womb, so we had time to prepare for what was ahead. At this point, I was approached to do genetic counseling, and he had been amniocentesis, but I opted to do this. I have to confess, even though we thought we were prepared, it was and is at times a lot harder than it seems to be. I would never wish this on anyone. With every child who has medical problems, you have your ups and downs, and now we are getting to more ups and downs and getting to the fun parts where we can enjoy Kylan and have fun with him. The rest of our pregnancy went pretty easy until the last week, when I went in and thought this was our last visit, until we learned we had to switch hospitals. That night, we got in touch with the new nurse over at the Cleveland Clinic, which ended up being a blessing in disguise. The next day, we learned that my platelet count was very low. It was only 68,000. And I'm not sure if many of you are aware, but a normal adult should be around 400,000. It turns out the last month, Kylan put a lot more strain on my body than anyone knew. With my platelets being so low, it was too dangerous to give me an epidural. That day, I was diagnosed with thrombocytopenia, which is an abnormally low number of platelets in the bloodstream. The normal amount of platelets is usually between 150 to 450,000 cells. The next day, I was induced and I was in labor for about 14 hours. I was unable to get the epidural because my platelet count was still low. I don't remember that day too much, but remember towards the end I was in a lot of pain. Kylan was born around 11:50 p.m. On the third day, I was finally able to see Kylan because we were at 2 different hospitals. By the time I got to see Kylan, he was already sedated and so tiny, and all the tubes were in him. There were tubes everywhere. I didn't really have that much of a reaction because I was still really out of it. Plus, I couldn't even hold him, so that made it hard too. A few days later, Kylan had his first open heart surgery, which was his Norwood procedure. After his Norwood procedure, Kylan was having a lot of bleeding issues, so they did a full blood work on him and realized he had Jacobson syndrome. They then went on to test me and learned I had it too. In March, when Kylan was 5 months old, it was time for his next catheterization and next open heart surgery. The next open heart surgery was the Glenn procedure. After that, he was in the hospital for about 3 weeks. As you can see, Kylan and I seem to be doing very well and continue to strive each and every day. I hope that my talk has given you some hope and insight on what your child's future looks like. I would once again like to thank Dr. Grossfeld for this wonderful opportunity that he gave me to share our story. And please feel free to approach me with any questions. I hope that I can help you in any way that I can. Thank you very much.